Hello there, my name is Will and welcome along to another Best and Worst, where today I'm taking a look at my very own CC Drums Playdate 1. As always with these reviews, I'll be breaking it down into 4 different sections with a sound test, my favourite features, who I think this kit is best suited for, and of course, the best and worst of this kit. So let's get into it and see how this drum kit sounds. For this demo, I'll be showing you 2 different types of tuning ranges, the high and mid tuning, as well as the low tuning. I personally think there's quite an impressive difference between how the kit can sound depending on how you tune it, so be sure to check out both. The Playdate 1 shells are made from 7 plies of mahogany, and the toms use what CC call their full contact bearing edges. Now what this means is, because of the shape of the bearing edge, it's always touching the drum skin, which allows you to be able to tune the drum super low, lower than most other drums, and create a completely different vibe to how the kit would sound when you tune it up high. So if you want to create that kind of low, thuddy Ringo sound, you can do it really easily just through the tuning of this kit. So I bought this drum kit secondhand and I've been recording and gigging with it for a number of years, and I have to say there are quite a few different favourite features that I have. Initially, the most obvious one is that I think it looks amazing. Pretty much all CC drum kits are always stunning. If you don't already follow them on Instagram, I highly suggest you do, because they're always posting beautiful drum kits. And I think it's a great blend of modern and vintage drums coming together. It looks vintage but feels modern to play. And one of the main reasons that I initially bought the kit was because of the bass drum sound. It's got this kind of modern punch to it, but a raw quality that I'd associate with perhaps a vintage bass drum. The tuning range the drums have is really special, and they sound great under the mics. Whether that's playing live or particularly in the studio is where I found it shone best. I actually used this kit on an album session I was doing with my band, and we had more time than normal. So we actually, in that session, set up 2 drum kits. We had a really modern sounding kit that we thought would give us our kind of classic studio drum sound. And over here, the souped up Lamborghini. So we got a ported bass drum situation. Yamaha custom. Going into a Thermostar Classic Babinga. And then we had the CC kit, which we were kind of planning to use on the more edgier tracks of the album. But once we got into the sound testing, it was clear that we had to use the CC. There's so much character come from the kit, but still not lacking in that power. It's brilliant to use. And we'd nicknamed one of the kits the Lamborghini, but the CC was kind of the Rolls Royce of the session. And I was absolutely blown away by the results. I also love the Art Deco design features, the simplicity of the spurs, and the drum hoop inlay. Also, it smells great. Quick smell test. It's good. Well, ever since I recorded that album, my producer has been after one of these CC kits. So if you are somebody that records a lot of drums, I definitely consider the Player Date 1. What I will say is that the drums record so brilliantly that sometimes when you're just playing them just for practice sake, they maybe don't sound as good as they do under the microphones. Don't get me wrong, they still play and sound brilliant to sit behind, but there's definitely a vintage growl to the drums that perhaps doesn't come through quite as much under the microphones. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would say it's an acquired taste. So if you're perhaps looking for a drum kit just to practice on, you're going to want to consider whether you want to have that kind of vintage vibe and vintage tone that you're going to get from these drums. No kit is perfect, and when you're looking at a more vintage-inspired drum kit, there are always going to be a few small worries. Now, I love the way that they look, but the longer tuning rods on this drum kit are always going to be at risk of being damaged when I'm moving from gig to gig, and if they do become bent or warped in any way, that is going to make the drum more difficult to tune. The snare drum that you can see in this kit actually used to use a different snare throw system that I actually had replaced. Now, I really liked the CC mechanism before, but because it used a bit more of a simple, more vintage-inspired mechanism, I actually found that the snares would slip off of the snare, and that meant I was getting an inconsistent sound, which is obviously not what we want, and I had it replaced with a more modern design. Now, whilst that is a criticism perhaps of the design from CC, I would say it does come with the territory of playing vintage drums. Whether you're playing really old drums or drums that are inspired by older techniques, they are exactly that. Older techniques, older mechanism designs, and they're not going to perhaps be as efficient as more modern techniques and modern designs. So whilst it is a criticism, it's not the worst thing about this kit. And that's because the worst thing about the Player Date 1 is trying to get hold of a Player Date 1 in the UK. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, this is a second-hand kit, and I actually got this through Rusty Drums. If you haven't checked out Rusty Drums and you are into vintage drums, do make sure you check him out. Follow him on Instagram. I'll put a link in the description below. It is an amazing shop. He's a great guy. And if anyone is going to get you a CC kit, he is your man. It's a brilliant service, and he has an amazing collection of so many old vintage drums. So definitely check him out, and big shout out to him for sorting me out with this kit. As I said earlier, this is a second-hand kit and it wasn't the original design of kit I actually wanted, but because I needed that kit for that album, I had to go with what was available, and availability isn't great in the UK at the moment. So for all the amazing kits you're seeing on CC's Instagram, it's actually really hard to get hold of one in the UK at the time of making this video. And I hope the availability does come back, because these drums should be played by everyone, because the best thing about the CC Playdate 1 has to be that low tuning range, and I think everybody should experience it. It's so good to have such a drum kit that can go quite so low. I don't think I've ever played a kit you could tune quite so low and get such a warm, muddy, lovely sound out of the drums, because they sound brilliant, and everybody should have a chance at playing the CC Playdate 1. So that is it. Let me know what you thought about the Playdate 1 from CC Drums in the comments below. If you're lucky enough to own one of these kits, let me know how you're tuning the kit, what kind of experiences that you've had, and if you are outside of the UK, are you finding that these kits are hard to get hold of, or is it just us? I want to know all about it. If you could go ahead and press the like button on this video, that would be amazing, and why not even subscribe to the channel as well for more videos just like this one. Until next time, my name is Will, and I will see you again soon.